The Curse of Illmore Bay, the Evercade Game of the Month for April 2024. Yes, Evercade's Game of the Month is back and I'm genuinely very excited for it. The Indie Heroes collection carts are some of my favourites on the platform, and for the last couple of years the program Blaze have done where they let players download a new game each month completely for free as a preview of the next Indie Heroes cart has become a great way to keep me excited for the platform. And when I say preview, I don't mean it's just a demo. They let you play the entire game from the upcoming Indie Heroes collection that will release early the next year. And you can keep it on your Evercade console, either Evercade EXP or Evercade VS, for as long as you like until you next update the firmware. The first game of the month that will be part of Indie Heroes Collection 4 is The Curse of Illmore Bay. It's a 2D platformer that has been designed for the Sega Mega Drive and is about 3 kids on an adventure to save Halloween and the town they live in, surprisingly enough called Illmore Bay, from all kinds of ghosts, ghoulies, monsters and spectres. So let's dig in and see what it's all about, and more importantly, if it's any good. Before we get going, I'll note that this review is good for players of The Curse of Illmore Bay, whether you're playing it right now at the time of me making this video, when it's part of the Evercade's Game of the Month, or if you're playing it later as part of Indie Heroes Collection 4, or if you actually have the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis version, or are playing it on Steam, or whatever other means you have of playing the game. The only thing that will make this review unique in ways is that the Evercade allows you to do save states whenever you like, and I can say that in the interest of getting through the game for this review, oh boy, did I need to use a bunch of save states. The game looks like an early years Mega Drive platformer, and the graphics are nice, but they're not going to blow you away. You go around various areas of Illmore Bay from a Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World style hub world map, and have locations like the suburbs, a graveyard, a swampland, a mall, and what I think is an Arkham-like mental asylum. Now that to me definitely should have been the final stage, but the mall is, which is a little bit more underwhelming when it comes to it, but never mind. All the people in the town have seemingly been possessed, and at the end of each zone you'll face a boss character. Once they're defeated, you'll then see them as a ghost, and they will give you a new special move to help you get through the next area. So in one sense it's horrifying to think that all of the people and bad guys that you meet along the way, you kill them and they literally die. But perhaps it gets fixed with the ending. I won't give the spoilers. Along the way, the baddies in each area differ, but usually follow the pattern of: one of them will stand there and throw things at you, one of them will walk and throw things at you, one of them will run at you, and maybe there are some bigger, rounder ones that just also throw things at you. Defeating the enemies can be achieved in a few ways. When you start the game, you have the ability to shoot something at enemies, and this uses up some kind of magic meter, as using any of the new abilities does. I can say straight away that on the final level of any zone, you'll want to save the magic meter for the final boss of that area, and pickups to replenish the magic meter are few and far between. The other options you have are to punch the baddies in the face or hit them with a flying kick in the face. I think the more you play this game, the more you'll get used to the controls and the way it plays, but for me, defeating enemies wasn't quite as easy or as natural as I'd like. I eventually decided that a flying kick was the best attack for any enemy, as when you hit them, the enemies will have a couple of seconds where they flash and you pass through them and you don't get hurt by it. If you use the punch attack, your character will literally stop and do the punch without continuing to move forward. This is really actually annoying, as it means you can never approach an enemy from behind to punch them, as by the time the punching animation has played out, you've missed them. At least with the flying kick, you'll go all the way through them and you won't get hurt. The flying kick isn't as easy to pull off as I'd like though, because you absolutely have got to press jump and then press kick. Pressing both together won't help you, and you'll just jump and jump into an enemy, which will hurt you. As I said, my aim with this game was to get through it as quickly as I could so I could do this review. So I will acknowledge that I used a few more save states than I would if I was just playing purely for the fun of it. But basically I gave myself a midway point on each stage. And there was a couple of points where I just saved because it was becoming really frustrating, because there are areas where there's two bad guys in a row and you try to duck one and you'll get hit, and if you try to jump the same one then you'll get hit by a different bad guy, and it feels a little bit like unfair level design at times. But like I said, if you were just playing this for the fun of it and really taking your time with it, then you'd probably just work out the timing a little bit more and you'd get into it, I guess. But after the halfway point of the game, there were times where I was like, screw it, and I'll just do a few more save states. It wasn't that the game was getting that much harder, but it can be frustrating with feel like these cheap deaths. The screen is busy with things going on, which is good, but it isn't super consistent with what are platforms and what aren't. You can sometimes catch your head on a low ceiling that you would have thought you could jump through, or you can see things like lockers that you can jump onto, and the lockers are stood on what is a sheer drop, so what are they standing on that you can't, yet you can stand on them? It's a game where things will be fine once you get to know what is what, but it doesn't change that there is sometimes a little bit of a lack of logic that doesn't help the player. I like the settings and the characters and the design, and it's a simple story, but it's one that serves to make sense for why everything is there. And also, naughty developers, in one of the levels there is graffiti on the wall that says GTFO, and we all know what that stands for, and that seems a little bit out of place in what otherwise seems a kid-friendly game. For me, I think it's a good game that I'll appreciate more within time, but truthfully, I'm not convinced that it's a great game as things are. I'm actually looking forward to playing it through a second time in a kind of new Game Plus style. The game asks you to collect various pieces of candy, as it is set at Halloween after all, and gives you stats to say if you've got them all, and also if you've beaten all of the enemies. Now, I'm not sure what 100%ing this game will give you, if anything, but it quickly becomes apparent that there are areas you can't reach when you're first playing the opening levels, and that the game wants you to come back and replay these later once you've unlocked some of the hidden moves. I do think the magic meter is used up far too quickly though, and perhaps it's because they're worried that you'll be too overpowered if you have all of the moves in your arsenal to use all the time, but having these to go through the game again, I actually think will make it a much more enjoyable experience. The only problem is you just won't be able to use them in a new Game Plus way where you can just constantly use them, because you'll still be limited by how much magic power you've got. The only downside to the extra powers is that you have to open a pause menu to swap between them, and it does break up the flow of the game a little bit. As I was playing later levels in the game where you need to use various powers at different times, I just wanted a Legend of Zelda N64 like C button layout so I could assign all of the skills to, but unfortunately, as a Mega Drive game, they give you 3 action buttons and then the start button to be pause, and also open up the menu to choose the different powers. You get the flying ability that will let you hover but not fly upwards. Then there is a dash move that will let you go across gaps, then a boost move which is kind of like a double jump and does let you fly upwards for a little bit, and then there are a couple of attack moves that summon bats or monster versions of the other 2 characters to come and help you. Oh, you do have a choice of 3 characters by the way, which I'm not sure if I forgot to mention. I don't think there's really that much difference in which one you choose though, so just choose whichever one you like the look of most. The bosses on the game are a little bit of an oddball mix of opponents to go against. Probably my favourite one to fight was the Wicked Witch, just because there was mechanics where she'd stand on an area and you could flick a switch and then she'd fall down, and that felt like there was something different about that boss fight compared to all of the others where you're just simply dodging things and trying to get in attacks where you can. There is a guy who's got a green cape on, and perhaps he's meant to be, he could even be a kid from Halloween 3 who's got the pumpkin mask on and it's stuck to him. I'm not sure, to be honest, but he just seemed like a 45-year-old guy with glasses and a pumpkin head on and then a cape. I think he has problems. Then there is a old school doctor with one of those long nose masks on, and then a modern style doctor or surgeon, and these are fine. The most difficult boss in the game for me was the one themed after death, just because he has a shield force field thing which follows him around, which means it's really hard to get in between him to get in any attacks. But once again, when you see the opening, the best way to attack that guy is with a flying kick. The final boss is actually quite fun to go against as well, as he has different forms. He starts off like a mall Santa Claus, and I was really quite disappointed to see that with the mall not being what I thought the final level should be, that the final boss was Santa. But luckily he has these different forms, and he turns into a demon dog and then a big spiky ball, and it's actually quite a good battle to have. The main thing I'll say if you're playing this game to keep in mind with the boss fights is that the game does save after every level you've gone to. So if you don't have full lives after getting through levels 1 and 2 of the stage, basically just get a game over and restart for level 3, because when I was going against the death-like boss, I was already on my last life when I started the stage, and it meant that I had very little chance of beating the boss because I'd already used up a lot of my magic power and ended up using about 30 save states just because I wanted to beat the boss and move on, when it would have just been easier to get killed and start that whole level again. You have effectively 6 hits that you can take, and these go very quickly, and again with limited health and magic pickups along the way, you can sometimes be the Walking Dead but just don't quite realise it. I did find at least once that the lack of magic power meant I had no choice but to jump my way to doom, and I thought this sucked as the game was unwinnable in this situation, though through no fault of my own. You should be able to use the magic earlier in a level if you choose to. I just didn't know that I'd need to be able to fly over certain gaps later in the level, and because I'd already used my magic up, it meant that it was a no-win situation. Stuff like this quickly teaches the player to not bother and avoid using their magic throughout a lot of the game, and that's a real shame because using the magical abilities is something you should look forward to. But it is what it is. The Curse of Illmore Bay is a fun little platformer that will maybe take a couple of hours to play through the first time, but once you get to know the levels and how it all works, you'll probably get through a lot quicker after that. It definitely has some flaws, but it has got me excited to see what the next Evercade Game of the Month is. I wouldn't say this is as good a first game of the month as the last couple of years when we had Tapeworm Disco Puzzle and Donut Dodo, which were the first game of the months in the previous 2 years, and in both cases I felt they were each the best game that the Indie Heroes carts had. My hope is that there will be something better for this for Indie Heroes 4. I've recently reviewed Cash Cow DX, which is from the same people that made Donut Dodo, and I think it would be a perfect collection for Indie Heroes 4, but since it's just come out on other platforms, maybe it won't make it until Indie Heroes 5. But time will tell, it could come out later in the year as the Game of the Month. Now, what would you like to see come to Indie Heroes 4 and the Evercade Game of the Month program? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know what your thoughts are on the Curse of Illmore Bay. I think it's, like I say, a little bit of a flawed game, but it is a fun game, and I do look forward to playing it more until the next update, where I'll then have to wait until about next February, I suppose, for Indie Heroes 4 to release. So if you want to try the game here and now for free, you can get it on your Evercade EXP or Evercade VS by downloading the latest firmware update. I know some people are slightly hesitant just because there has been a couple of issues in recent times with some updates, but hopefully they're all fixed, because in previous couple of years I never had a problem getting these games of the months and having other issues, so I think it will be safe for me to do this, although I'll probably just do it on my VS and leave my EXP as it is for a little while just to make sure it settles and everyone is happy with the update. So that is going to wrap things up for this review of the Curse of Illmore Bay. If you haven't done so already, I'd appreciate if you would smash that subscribe button here on the Geek Battle Gaming YouTube channel. I've got a ton of Evercade reviews that I've done on the channel, and my aim is to go back and review every cartridge collection that has come out for the Evercade in the past, and I also just like to cover the whole modern retro genre, so do check out stuff that I've got on the channel, including a bunch of recent documentaries. And as always, if you head over to www.xstreamed.tv/gaming, you'll be able to find the written article version of all of the reviews and documentaries I do on the channel. So with that, until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and ciao for now. Boom, and I'm off the air.